Hey everybody, Parks Ousley here. I'm a writer and reporter for Upcomer. I'm joined by Azael in my first interview back in the studio in 2 years. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's go back to this time 2 years ago. We're shutting down LCS mid-March. The energy levels were kind of tough. People didn't really know what to expect. How has that been for you, knowing that it's your job to entertain people, to be valuable, to learn things, continue growing? How has all of that been for you the past couple of years?
I mean, it's been a bit weird, right? I think it's been a bit weird for pretty much everyone for the last couple of years. Obviously, COVID changed how we live, not just how we work or anything, but really changed so much for everyone, right? Especially early on in COVID, everything just felt like it moved so fast. It went from there's nothing to worry about to okay, everyone go home, LCS is canceled this week, to then we are doing fully remote broadcasts, from home, and basically never leaving my apartment, never seeing my friends, never seeing my family. It's really, really weird. And I think that, then going from that to being back in studio, but there's no players, there's no fans. I think it's been hard for, not just casters, but for everyone who works on LCS, because for pretty much universally, you can ask anyone who works on the show, and I think the same probably goes for press, the most exciting part is the atmosphere that comes along with it, with the fans and all the excitement and the fun, and being able to actually share this event that is special to you with all these other people that it's also special for, right? And especially when you're thinking of, finals and big events where you're in this packed crowd and there's so much energy, there's so much excitement that you can really feed off of, as a caster and as a fan. So to have that just kind of go away was kind of crazy, and I think it hit people pretty hard, kind of on a mental health level and things, being able to kind of work through all their personal stuff, but also having it, affect your work as well. Because as you say, it's our job is very much at the end of the day to be entertaining, right? And the ways that we be entertaining can maybe be being educational. Sometimes it's less of that. Sometimes it's more comedic, etc. There's different ways, but really point blank, your job is to make the game interesting and to present it in an interesting way. And so that means bringing big energy usually, and always trying to have a good time and be in a good mood and all those kinds of things, even if you were not feeling that. And I think people were feeling that a lot more during COVID when, maybe people were, hadn't been able to see their family in a year and they're really struggling with that. And then, you go and broadcast and you're casting by yourself in a room and there's not any energy there. And you have to go from your computer where you already were sitting alone in your bedroom to then being all right, let's go, pop off. Right. So I think it's different. I think that people took to it pretty damn well. I'm proud of how the production team adapted very quickly and got back on their feet really quick. I'm proud of how a lot of the casters have been able to do it, because I think that for the most part it was fairly seamless. Obviously there are some bumps in the road, but I think it's more draining as a caster to just put on the energy when you don't feel it, versus when you're in a crowd and everyone's popping off. It takes no effort at all to be excited. You're just naturally you feel the buzz, right? And if you're casting an international event and it's 3 a.m. and you're tired and you're in a dark room by yourself, you have to really kind of put it on, right? So I think that has been the big challenge for people kind of making that transition, but it feels so good to just have people back in the studio, having players coming back into the studio last week and just seeing people around and chatting to some of the people I know from the teams and seeing press back here makes it feel okay, we're getting somewhere, and there's some life being kind of breathed back into the studio with it filling up and not feeling so empty.
Yeah. I want to ask some about motivation.
Yep.
I think that was, for me, that was a big struggle. It's energy obviously is very low, but then right after that is, why am I here? What am I doing? It's hard to see my growth. It's hard to see people's responses to what I'm doing. That's all going to be the same for you, but it also, of course, is still your job to grow and to have relationships with the other casters and things like that. How did you kind of stay motivated through all of this? And what is your thought right now of Azael in 2022 compared to Azael in 2020? How much do you think was actual growth? How much are you looking back on it and hey, I made it through, I'm good, or this was rough, but that was great?
I think for me, a lot of people talk about motivation. I've always felt in my life, especially coming from a pro gaming background, that motivation is fleeting and discipline is more permanent. I've always looked at it more as if you're motivated, it's easy to put in the time. If you're disciplined, you can do it. It doesn't have to be easy, right? I had there was Dunkwap, he's a YouTuber. He did this video about casting, and it was really interesting because all the amateur casters at the end, it was like, what is the most important thing about casting? All the amateur casters got asked this question, and universally they all said passion, right? You have to have passion. And to me, it was just kind of like this funny answer, not to like laugh at the fact that passion is important, and it's definitely makes your job way easier. But I've always believed that it's not required. You don't have to feel the motivation. You don't have to be excited to do it. You don't have to, as long as you can stay disciplined and force yourself to work at it. And I've always kind of looked at it, as a professional craft, and wanting to be the best that I possibly can at it. Motivation was definitely something that's harder to come by when you're not in like this exciting environment. So for me, I had to stay disciplined and really try to work at, day in, day out, getting better with focused goals, coming into each cast saying, hey, this week I'm going to try to remove X from my, vocabulary, or I'm going to try to focus more on having exciting moments, or I want to bring more banter into it. And always going in with a goal that I can measure and say, did I accomplish this? Okay. Now move on to the next goal, or am I not accomplishing this? Continue to work at that. So for me, it's always kind of been that. And as far as, where I am in 2020 versus where I am now, I do think I've gotten better. And I do think that that is something that I see year over year. I think that the fans are seeing that year over year from at least from the responses that I see. I'm sure some people think Azael's trash and he's always been trash or whatever. Some people may have thought I was already good and, I'm still good, whatever. But definitely I've seen over the last couple of years, way more positive community sentiment. As far as the assignments that I'm getting better assignments and stuff. When you, when you look international, I got to MSI finals, I got to cast SKT, Dom 1, this year. So I'm getting bigger things. I feel like it's going well. And, I do think that a lot of that is just the result of all the work that I put in.
Yeah, definitely. I guess I'm glad. I've spoken obviously with a bunch of the casters throughout COVID, and they've talked some about we're still, we're in constant communication. We've got people checking up on us and giving us feedback. So that's nice. I think a lot of my job is just what is Reddit saying about either me or something I'm talking about.
Yep.
And that's a little less fun.
Reddit can be tough.
Yeah.
I think, for me, I don't read Reddit at all anymore. And that was a conscious decision I made, I don't know how many years ago now, but a couple of years ago. Maybe I'll check in once in a blue moon, but I think a lot of people get into the habit that can be really, really kind of difficult, whether it's positive or negative, of oh, what is everyone saying about me? And a lot of casters, I think, have gone down that rabbit hole of after every game, oh, okay, what's Reddit saying? What are they thinking? Oh, I thought I nailed this. Did they think, and if you get shit on, you're going to feel horrible. But even I think sometimes people don't think about the inverse, where you're getting really good feedback, and then sometimes even just the absence of that is oh, what did I do wrong? And people can get really in their head. So I have a lot of people that I do ask for feedback, and who I trust their opinions, and I get opinions from people, on the production team, co-casters, and also friends who are in tune with Reddit and stuff, who if there's something that I need to know that everyone's wow, you are bad at this or whatever, then I'll hear about it. So I'm not totally out of the loop, but I do think that for me, focusing so much on the individual opinions and giving too much weight to the individual opinions of people can sometimes just get too much in your own head. Because I think most people I'll at least speak for myself, I could read 50 really positive comments and then someone who's just tearing me apart, and that's the one that'll stick with me. And I think a lot of people I've seen really kind of struggle with that, and that kind of battle with staying informed and trying to seek feedback and get useful stuff from it, but also having it kind of damage your self-worth or kind of hurt your mental health. I've seen casters at international events read some horrible thread about themselves and literally in tears, right? And it's one of those things that I think, if you want to be able to do this long term, you need to be able to get feedback and constantly improve, but you also have to protect yourself and your own kind of sanity and well-being to be able to continue to do it long term.
Yeah, that is rough though. But yeah, good advice, helpful for people. Don't read Reddit if they're mean, or read it if they're nice.
Or don't.
That's or don't, point, yeah. Right? Or don't.
You can sometimes just get a big head, and it's better, I think, to be more even-keeled. You're going to be happier on a day-to-day basis. Everyone, I think, loves the validation, and I'm not immune from that. I don't think anyone is. Feels nice to read nice things about yourself or something that you've done. But I do think sometimes you can kind of believe your own hype a little bit too much, and I think that can negatively affect people in other ways.
Yeah. I want to ask about how you are looking forward in this moment.
Yep.
now that we're finally kind of coming back in, you're getting to see players more, getting a little bit more of that energy. What are you hoping to do this split? What are you working on now? What are your like kind of short-term month to 3-4 month goals?
I mean, I would say for a lot of the LCS, it's just been, really ramping up the amount of content and skits and things that we do. That's been, I think, something that the production team and some of our writers and stuff have been absolutely crushing. I think for this split, I think some of the new tone and even everything from like the hype videos that we had at the start of LCS, really people are getting excited. People seem to be very, very excited for the league, for the teams. And I think that, that's where it's like, it's the best possible opportunity that we have to really keep like doing the best shit that we possibly can and putting out as much cool stuff as we can. So it's been fun just doing some more like skits on a consistent basis. Like, I don't know if you've seen any of the LCS answers type stuff,
Yes.
but that stuff I think is really fun. I can't give away all the stuff that we've done, but recorded another skit this morning with Flowers. Earlier this week, we recorded another skit with Flowers and some other people. I have 2 more pre-records I'm doing tomorrow for things. So really, it's just been about trying to do a lot of content and show that like, hey, like we can do really varied content and we can do it consistently and we can do it at a high level. And so I think that's what everyone on LCS right now is kind of super focused on, and just trying to get people excited about the league and share our passion about the league with the fans.
So I was going to bring that up because I think the content around COVID was very interesting. There were a lot of changes.
It's
like
hard.
every split, it was like, oh, we're going to do this now. And then it's like, we did that. We're not doing that again. We're going to do this. I love the skits. I love the stuff that y'all have been doing. And I think that your segment with Phreak was maybe the funniest thing that y'all have ever done. And it's not just because like, oh, this is a funny idea.
Yeah.
But the two of you acted it out so well. And so I was going to ask, I've spoken with Dash a few times, and I know that Dash is an actor, wants to be an actor. But I think you are a better actor. I've never seen him like in a skit like that.
I'm gonna send this to Dash.
Like,
He's gonna be so
you
sad.
were so good when you were like, talk to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, what are we? You're like, talk to him.
Yeah.
It was so good. So I wanted to give that to you. Do you have any thoughts about going into an acting career? Because I thought it was incredible. I thought that was a lot of fun.
That's hilarious. I'm definitely going to send this to Dash. He's not going to be very happy with
sorry.
you. But no, not really. I love doing that kind of stuff, though. And I do have a lot of fun doing some of the silly skits, and because I think so much of it is just about delivery and these little things. I don't actually think I'm much of an actor, but I think it's a lot of fun to kind of like do these things and think about how you can improve them and like ways to deliver the lines or facial expressions. I think can sometimes add a lot to it. I had a lot of fun doing that with like some of the doctor skits that we do with Mark, just like reactions to things and these goofy things. I think can be so much fun. And Asa, I believe, is the producer who wrote that whole skit, or at least him and his team. And I have a lot of fun kind of like going back and forth with him and like, one of us will have a stupid idea and you can kind of like bring it and have it fleshed out, right? Sometimes I don't have a full idea, but I'll be like, well, what if we did something about this? And then he'll be like, oh, like we could do this and this, and and you can kind of snowball. And I just love that creative process, and that's kind of what I love about, like, I'll say acting, because it's just funny, right? It's like you're just thinking through these things and the kind of ideas of how to deliver it or ways that we could change something to make it funnier. I love that stuff, so I definitely have really enjoyed getting to do more of it.
Yeah, no, it was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
I've been enjoying the kind of fresh content. I think a lot of that is the energy overall. Even though I haven't been here, it has just been a more energetic last month or two.
Oh yeah.
So that also helps. But so you're not going to be an actor.
Maybe, who knows?
Or maybe. Looking at the future, though, and this is something that I think it was LS Doublelift, they were talking about on Doublelift's new podcast. Yep. I don't know if you've watched that one yet.
I haven't caught it yet, but I was talking to Doublelift about it.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. I'll definitely check it out.
They were talking about, like, what are you going to do when League dies? Which could be in 50 years. Like, it could never die. Who knows? But if it does, it would probably be in, like, NA first, or, like, before China.
We're going to be the biggest, the best?
Before China. Like, like looking at player base, looking at, I don't know, competitive, whatever. I love it. I hope that it doesn't leave for a very long time.
We're on the up and up. This is NA's year.
And we're going to get to that in a second. But LS said if League ever died, he would just go to the Riot MMO.
Yep.
And I was like, well, here's Azael. I'm talking to Azael this weekend.
Yeah.
So I guess my thought is casters have kind of had this conversation for a while about, there's like, you're an LCS caster.
Yep.
There is no next thing.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you are working a desk job, then you could be a supervisor, and then
Yep.
like a supervisor, and then a director, and a whatever.
You can really just be a more popular LCS caster.
You could.
Yeah, that's all you can do. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have like a 10-year plan or like a thought for what happens when you're 50 or something?
I wouldn't say I have it like completely scripted out or anything like that.
Sure.
And I think a lot of LCS casters, their first game was League, right? And they've only done League, and so League potentially ending as like this like doomsday scenario, and I hope that LCS goes forever, and that I'm still having fun casting it, and I can continue to do that, and that would be awesome. But the reality is, this is not the first game that I've cast, right? Like I cast Hearthstone, I cast StarCraft, I cast World of Warcraft. I've cast other random games as well. I was a pro pretty much until for like 7 years, until EG stopped sponsoring us, and I didn't want to live purely off of like stream donations and subs. I didn't feel comfortable doing that at the time. Twitch has kind of since blown up, so I think it's maybe more of a reliable thing than it was back then. But I've kind of like gone through these different stages, and so while I don't want that to happen, I know that I will be okay if it does, because I know I can transfer to a new game. I know that most years I get interest from teams, whether it's for coaching or managerial positions and things like that. Literally my entire adult life has been in esports, right? I didn't go to university. I was a pro from 17 straight out of high school. I'm 33 now. Like, there's not a lot of people in the world that have as much esports experience as I do. So because of that, I feel pretty confident that I'd be able to find something. Whether or not it's casting for the rest of my days, I don't know. That's something that I've thought about, because it's like, okay, if you're 60 and your game dies and the new game comes out, like, do they want the 60-year-old Fortnite caster? Probably not, right?
Yeah.
But then maybe you can be on the production side of esports, or you can be doing advisory type stuff, or maybe part of a league or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I think there's lots of like options and opportunities out there for people who are driven and motivated, and proven themselves to be good at what they're doing. So I've kind of like just gone through my life taking opportunities as they come and working hard at what I'm doing and focusing mostly on that. And that's kind of how I'm going to continue to do it. Focus more on the now and figure out the rest as it comes along, because I'm pretty confident I'll be able to. As far as Riot MMO and stuff, definitely I'm thinking about that, because I have a love for MMOs. I have a huge background in WoW, and for sure I'm going to be following that with interest and checking that out and stuff. And who knows, right? If the Riot MMO comes out and it's amazing and I love it, maybe I'm all in on that, and maybe I'm casting that or playing that or streaming that or whatever.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that as a future thing too.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, you definitely have options. And also, like, League isn't dying. That was a purely hypothetical.
It's definitely not. But I get it's something that I think is on everyone's mind at some point, right? Where it's like, okay, even if it starts dying today and it's steadily downhill, you probably still have 5, 10, whatever years. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy with what I'm doing now.
Awesome. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
I do, as a very quick side tangent, and you can be very brief.
Okay.
I don't understand World of Warcraft. I grew up in the middle of like farm town nowhere. Like, we didn't even have computers. That wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
In my head, I think of it as like RuneScape. Like,
Okay.
I like mine stuff, and I enchant my armor, and I fight dragons.
Yeah.
How do you win?
Okay, so in competitive play is essentially 3 versus 3 deathmatch, right?
Okay.
So it's everyone has equal gear. There are all those other aspects in all MMOs, but the PvP competitive aspect is teams of 3, and you're competing against each other to essentially kill the other team. Like, that's the most simplistic version.
Meet
but
me in the wilderness. Gotcha.
Well, there's maps, there's
Sure, okay.
there's gear, there's different classes, there's different combinations and permutations and stuff. But essentially, I mean, at the simplest explanation, it's really not that different than saying League of Legends is 5 versus 5, where you try to destroy each other's base. World of Warcraft is 3 versus 3, where you try to kill the enemy team.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens with the Riot one. I've never gotten in any MMOs, but I will very likely at least give the Riot one my best shot.
They're really fun. They can be dangerously addicting though, because of all of the things that can be in it. It's like you're talking about mining, enchanting your armor, doing all these things. There's so much in these games that if you really do love an MMO, it can be pretty dangerous because there's like infinite content, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm definitely going to have to watch out for that. All right, last question. Thank you so much again. NA is very hyped right now.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone is very excited. We've got Smite top. We've got Enchanters mid. We have a bunch of junglers just popping off. A bunch of new imports that are all performing very well. And they were all question marks, but they're all like check marks now. Are we overhyping? Are we just setting ourselves up to get hurt in the future?
I don't think so. I think that the league is actually really strong right now. I think that it's extremely competitive. I think that there's a lot of reasons to be excited for North American League of Legends. Does that guarantee you're going to win a world championship? No, of course not. But does it mean that we're moving in the right direction? Absolutely. I think so. I think that the league is extremely exciting right now. I think that there's a lot of high-level teams in the league right now. I think Champions Queue is going to do incredible things for the practice of these teams outside of their scrim sets. They now have access to much better practice partners, much higher quality practice on lower ping. There's a lot of reasons to be really excited. I also think there's a lot to be said for, as much as people like to meme on NA and this import region and stuff, people were like, it's Rift Rivals, like what a joke. Well, I actually think that is such a positive, and it's kind of one of these things where it's like, I've never seen imports as a negative because, I grew up watching, baseball and football and basketball and all these sports, and it's like, no one made fun of like a team in the NHL for having lots of Europeans on it or what, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just been this thing where it's, if we can attract the best talent with whatever advantages we have, and hey, maybe that's monetary where, it's easier to get sponsors here, so it's easier to pay our players more money. Well, that's great because we can now attract players and coaches from all different parts of the world and get a more diverse league that has different play styles, and that can help you prepare better for international play, right? Yeah. If we have a team that is kind of modeled around the LCK style with Cloud9 and LPL with TSM, and then you have Team Liquid that is very largely European with their European coaches and European players, and EG is supposed to be more North American, right? Like you have all these different looks from high-level teams that are going to be bringing different strategies to the table. And I do think, even if one proves to be stronger than the other, it helps you learn how to play against different play styles. It helps you to think about the game in different ways and see different perspectives. And to me, that's just like so valuable when you're talking about preparing for these international competitions where you have to do just that.
Yeah. I'm very excited. I'm very hopeful.
It's NA's year. Worlds is here. It's all scripted.
That's true. I just have a bunch of friends, in Europe and China, and they're just like, yeah, no, I don't trust you. We'll see it later. We'll see it in 3 months. So, I'm trying to stay grounded.
Enjoy the ride, right? That's what I say.
But I'm enjoying it.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like people like to say that it's like, what's the point if we don't win Worlds? What's the point if we don't do this? I think there's so much fun to be had watching the league right now. I think it's so exciting. I think viewership is reflecting that. I think all the excitement and the hype around it from the players and the content creators is reflecting that. And it's just a really fun time to be an LCS fan. So for me, that's not invalidated, by a poor international performance. Do I hope that we do really well? Of course I do.
Yeah.
I want us to. I'm one of the biggest fans for sure of our teams when we go international, and I definitely feel it when we lose.
Yeah.
But no, I'm just enjoying the ride, and I think everyone should, take it for what it is and enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Just have fun.
Yep.
Just have fun because it is a lot of fun. Thank you so much for being a part of that and for providing the entertainment.
Thank you.
And thank you for the interview. I appreciate it. For all of you watching, thank you. Like and subscribe. Check out more stuff. Will be a lot more coming. All right, that does it.